Little Red's Adventures, a short story series by Jaidwing. Story 3. Beginning of a Passion.
Mom, Moom, Mom, Mom, Mama, Mommy.
Little Red chanted as he jumped up and down on his poor sleepy mother's bed. He had a lot of energy as usual in the early morning. He plopped onto her face, and Black Mamba grumbled as she was rudely woken up by his ruckus.
"What is it, my son?"
She mumbled as she peeled him off of her face. She sat up and looked at the tiny red ball of energy.
Can you take me hunting with you today?
He asked her with big puppy eyes.
"I told you I would take you with me when you're older, my child."
Mamba laid back in her bed and got comfortable. Little Red flopped down right beside her.
But I'm older today. See, I grew last night.
He said with a little smile as he tried to convince her. Mamba chuckled, and then locked a little Yodia in between her arms.
Ack, let go, Mama.
He squirmed in her grasp, trying his best to get her to let go.
"I thought you said you were older. Any child of mine would be able to get out of my grip of love."
She pulled him up to her face and tickled him with her mandibles. He started to squeal and laugh from her playful nibbles. Mamba chuckled with amusement and let him go.
"You are still too young to come with me on hunts. You haven't even killed your first prey yet. How about you learn what your brother Cub does for the clan? I think you would like what he does."
Mamba sat up again.
But Mom.
He whined.
"No buts. Hunting is dangerous and you don't have enough of the skills to hunt yet. You will when you are older. For now, you can learn something from Cub."
Mamba got up to get ready for the day, since she wouldn't be able to go back to sleep.
What he does is boring. He doesn't hunt like you.
"Do you even know what he does, Red?"
She splashed her face with cold water and dried it off with a rag.
Well, no, but he doesn't hunt.
Little Red sat at the edge of his mother's bed and kicked his legs around as he watched his mom.
"There are more skills in life that you need to know besides hunting. Your brother already has a mate, one, and he's happy with only her. His skills help the clan more than you know."
Mamba went to her closet and picked out her clothing for the day.
Like what?
"Repairing your gear if it breaks. A lot of your hunting gear will be electronic if you so choose. Your brother repairs gear and also creates specified hunting equipment. I don't know how he does it, but I find it amazing."
She gestured for him to follow her. He hopped off of her bed and ran up to her to hold her hand as she left her hut.
"Have you eaten yet?"
She looked down at him.
No.
"So you just woke up and decided to bombard me?"
She teased him. He giggled.
"Let's get breakfast then."
Mamba headed to the food court of the village. A sudden voice came from behind them.
"Oh, you're up early?"
Mamba looked behind herself, even though she already recognized the voice.
"This little one decided to jump all over me,"
she told her father Python. He caught up to the two.
"An early start to the day is better than a late one. He knows it."
Python pat Little Red's head. Little Red had a small smile on his face. Mamba yawns.
"I can still get as much done in a day compared to everyone else. I just stay up later than most do."
The three all headed to the food court and grabbed whatever was being served.
Ew, worms.
Little Red looked at the bowls Mamba had in her hands.
"They're not worms. They're grubs. They are good for you."
Mamba sat down at a table, and Little Red sat down right next to her. Python, on the other hand, left after he grabbed his food.
"Don't forget that you have to train the young bloods this afternoon."
He reminded Mamba from a distance.
"I know."
She sighed. Little Red looked up at her and then to the bowl of grubs.
Do I have to eat those? They are still moving.
"When you become a hunter, my little Red, you will have to eat these if you cannot find anything else. Besides, these ones actually taste good."
Mamba took a couple of them in her hand and ate them.
Ew.
"You used to eat bugs all the time when you were a pup. A lot of bugs. Come on. Just try one at least."
She handed him his bowl. Little Red begrudgingly took his bowl and picked up a fat grub. He gently squished it in between his fingers, not enough to kill it. Mamba watched him as she ate.
"Stop playing with it. Here."
Mamba took the grub from his hands and then put it in his mouth. She made him chew it. Little Red squeaked in response. Once he tasted the grub, though, he started to eat the grubs in the bowl, shoving them in his mouth. Mamba chuckled. Once they were done eating, Mamba took Little Red to Cub's workshop. It was a large hut that had a forge off to the side of it. Connected, Cub was sitting at a desk, soldering small wires together with great precision, when he heard someone enter his workshop. He stopped and looked to see who entered.
Oh, hey Mom. Hey Bubba.
Cub turned off his soldering tool and got up from his seat, going up to Mamba to hug her.
What brings the two of you here? Need me to fix something?
No, I actually was wondering if you could take Little Red under your wing today. I have to train young bloods this afternoon.
Little Red hugged the side of his mother's leg. Feeling a little shy, Mamba rubbed his head.
Sure, I finally caught up on all my orders and repairs, so I can teach him a thing or two.
Cub smiled as he looked down at the small Yotya.
Good, thanks. I'll be back later today to pick him up.
She hugged Little Red.
Be good for me.
She nuzzled her mandibles up against his small face, and he giggled from how it tickled. Mamba left him with Cub.
So, what do you want to learn, bud?
Cub went back to his seat and plopped down in it. Little Red looked at his own feet.
Aw, not feeling social this morning? That's all right. Come here.
Cub motioned for Little Red. He slowly walked to him. Cub pulled him up and sat him on his lap.
This that I'm working on is a prototype weapon. I've been working on it for a couple of years now. This is the 7th variant. Want to know what it does?
Little Red didn't respond. He was pouting about the fact his mom left him to be with his older brother. Cub decided to tell him anyway.
This is a weapon that I will use in hunting someday, once I can get it to work. I will utilize serpent blood to kill my prey.
There's blood in this.
Little Red finally spoke.
Won't it burn?
It would if it were any metals we use, but I'm also using the hide of the serpent to create this weapon. It's proving to be a challenge. I have the wiring all figured out, but the hide tends to shrink over time. I've been trying to find a way to stop it from shrinking.
Maybe dry it all out first. Leave it in the sun.
Little Red suggested.
I've tried that. It just doesn't get all the moisture out no matter how many days or weeks I leave it out.
He sighs.
I probably need a break from this side project,
he said to himself. Little Red looked at the parts scattered about on the large work desk. He thought about something and then grabbed a piece of the xenomorph hide. He hopped off of Cub's lap and went to the forge's fire pit, tossing the hide into the fire.
Wah, hey!
Cub got up.
That's hard to skin. What are you thinking?
Getting the wetness out of it.
Little Red smiled. Cub grabbed a metal rod nearby and pulled out the hide. It had shrunk down, but it was still intact. Cub looked at it for a bit before dipping it in oil to cool it off. He took the hide and placed it on his desk. He flicked it a couple of times and then he took a tool and hit it.
Huh, I'm gonna need to run some tests on that.
Cub pat Little Red on the head.
Want to see some of the other things I've made?
Mom, sure.
Cub led Little Red to a different room of the large hut. This room had many weapons and different types of hunting equipment mounted on the wall.
Whoa.
Little Red's eyes darted back and forth. Not being able to focus on one thing, he's never seen so many things like these before.
You made all of these?
Yeah, well, most of them. Some of them are just modified weapons. This is what I do most of the time, creating and fixing things.
Woo-wah. So, you help other hunters, and you make cool stuff for them. What's this for?
Little Red ran up to a small shelf and took off a container. He opened it out of curiosity.
Those are noisemakers. You can program them to make different sounds to lure in prey. I modified them so that you can control the sounds from a hunting gauntlet specified for these. They can also record sounds around them and play the audio through your biomask. Very useful if you're listening for something you can't see.
Cub explained. Little Red looked up at his brother with wide eyes.
I want to make stuff like this.
Want me to teach you?
Cub grinned.
Yeah, I want to know how to make my own hunting weapons. I want to make cool stuff like you.
Little Red yelled with excitement.
Ooh, what's this?
He ran over to another gadget. Cub giggled and walked over. He had a feeling he would be explaining things to his little brother for a while. Cub didn't mind though. He was passionate about his work and he was excellent at explaining things in detail, as well as simplifying complicated processes that can be understood, even by the least technical person. It is actually surprising with how many other Yotya, who use hunting equipment that's tech-based, have no clue how most of their tech even works. A lot of them are shown what it can do, but it is not explained to them how they work. This is why Cub is always busy with repairing tech and hunting equipment. No other yacht you know how. It can be overwhelming for Cub at times, but it brings him business and many benefits. After going through most of what each tech piece, gear and hunting weapon does, Little Red wanted Cub to teach him how to make weapons. Cub instead taught him the basics of programming. At first he didn't like it because he was having a hard time understanding it. Cub simplified what certain commands did and gave him some physical examples. He encouraged Little Red to try it out for himself. At first, he got many errors with his small piece of code. But after Cub explained it to him again and showed him one of the correct ways to write the code, it worked. Cub gave his little brother small tasks and lessons to complete, encouraging him as he struggled. By the end of the afternoon, Little Red was able to understand the very basics of programming. His little head hurt from learning all of the new terms, but he felt satisfied and proud that he made something on his own for one of the tasks. When Mamba came back to pick up Little Red, he ran to her and began to tell her all of the cool things Cub makes and what he does. As if she didn't already know, she was happy that he found what Cub did to be exciting. Cub talked with Mamba about him teaching Little Red once or twice out of the week, and Mamba agreed it would be good for Little Red to learn this new passion of his. Hey, I'm gonna be here for a while, so why not check out my social medias? Also, you may recognize my art. I'm Nomad's main artist. If you like my art, you can support me and my work. My commissions are always open, and you can find me in the Nomad Clan server as Big Papa. Alright, time to head off. See you next time.